So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, you guys are seriously making me follow William McNary and other Jeez, guys. So, I am here to introduce to you a phenomenal woman organizer. My name is Ben Head. I have the honor of serving as Jan Schakowsky's political director. Shout out to my predecessor, Alex Armour. So I am no stranger to introducing amazing, powerful, organizing women. And tonight I have the honor of introducing to you one of the fiercest, most wise, sweetest, kindest organizers I have ever known. Started with Harold Washington and to this very day was making volunteer recruiting calls before she came up here. We wanted to give the Schakowsky Fighter of the Year award. And before I name her, I want to tell you, this is not an award that Citizen Action gives out every year. This is one that only goes out when someone truly deserves it. And this year, that award goes to Katie Hogan.
Oh my gosh. Ben! You sleazoid. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. William McNary, you are amazing. Let's thank William McNary. Keeps us going time after time. This is amazing and a great honor. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Julie Sampson. Let's give her a hand. Jay Schakowsky has put me to work at least 3 different times at 3 different election seasons to go to nearby districts to wrangle canvassers out of Chicago to go and elect people like Sean Caston, Lauren Underwood, etc. This year we've been since September doing the Supremes circuit. And thank you, Citizens Action, for the yellow, black, and white cards, which we have put thousands, tens of thousands into District 2 and 3. But when you get an organizer award, you have to go, no organizer does anything alone, okay? Organizers need people. Organizers need folks that they can draw on to say, oh my gosh, can you go knock doors in frickin' Joliet? or LaGrange, or, oh my God, who knows where? And I want to tell you, we have heroes who have continued to do that. But I also want to tell you we don't have enough. So as an organizer, I have to say right now, if you yourself haven't knocked a door this season, if you yourself have not made a flippin' phone call this season, it's time. We have 2 weeks, and it's a scary time. And we need every single person in this room to do something between now and then. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Hey, women! I mean, seriously, folks, it's never been more on the line. So that's what I'm amazed at this. Ben, again, sleazeball. No, that's just a term of endearment, okay? I need to tell you that's a term of endearment. I love this man. He and Julie's, I don't know what they did, but Jan Schakowsky is the kind of congressperson that we should all have. Because Jan Schakowsky is putting her money where her mouth is. She puts me to work, not in her district, in other people's districts. Just grasp that for a minute. She helps other congresspeople get elected. She helps other congresspeople stay elected. This is unique. We need more than 2 or 3 Jan Schakowskys in the 435 congresspeople out there. They're all up for re-election. Okay, we have a race in Central Illinois with Nikki Budzinski. If you want to go and knock doors, do it in Champaign-Urbana. Okay, we have a race in the 17th district out in Rockford for Eric Sorensen. You want to knock doors? Go knock doors in Rockford. We've got a plan. We've got a little trip next Saturday if you want to talk to me. Shall I stop?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And this is totally special in every way.
Thank you, Madam Simon. I should have warned you. Next, our keynote speaker is a genuine hero. She is a veteran of the Iraq War, a Purple Heart recipient, the former Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and the Director of the Department of Veteran Affairs in Illinois. And she was elected in the United States Senate in 2016 after representing Illinois' 8th District in the United States House of Representatives for 2 terms. Senator Duckworth is very coincidental that we give her the mic on the same night that we are celebrating Monsignor Jack Egan, because she represents moral clarity, and Congressman Lane Evans. There was no bigger fighter for veterans than Lane, but we have someone who is truly a successor in both of those fights. I am glad that she's a fighter, but I'm more glad that she is on our side. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome the junior senator, United States Senator of Illinois. Her name is Tammy Duckworth.
We're hugging now, right? Oh my gosh, it is so great to be here. Hi, everybody. Well, listen, I'm going to follow up because, we were talking about getting out there and knocking on doors and making phone calls. Let me tell you, when you do that, I want you to send the message out loud and clear that when Democrats are in charge, Democrats deliver. Remember that. What have we delivered? At the height of the pandemic, we delivered the funds that got our schools to reopen and rescued all of our hospitals. I remember in the middle of the pandemic when we were all masking, because we were one of the few states that was truly masking here in the Midwest, I was talking to hospital directors in Southern Illinois who were getting patients flooding in from Missouri and Kentucky and Iowa and Indiana where they were not masking. And they were flooding our emergency rooms. And it was so bad that we were talking to the VA hospitals and asking the VA to please open up the VA hospitals and make them ready for compassionate cases. And we actually took some cases into the VA hospitals because our local hospitals downstate were overflowing. Mostly, we had some local folks, but a lot of folks were coming across the river because we were doing the right thing and we were doing the responsible thing. And so Democrats delivered on saving our hospitals and getting them reopened again and saving those hospitals. Sometimes they're the only hospital in a 3 or 4 or 5 county area. And then, as we moved along, we got the American Rescue Plan, which put historic amounts of money back into our state's coffers so that the Chicago Chicago School District got over $2 billion to help refurbish our schools for our kids so that they could go back to school in person, safely, and resume learning, because our kids really suffered during the pandemic. We then turned around and we did the PPP program to help businesses, small businesses, stay in business so that they didn't shut their doors permanently. And in Illinois, 95% of our employers are small businesses, not the large corporations. 95% of the people in Illinois work for a small business of some form. And we kept them open and we kept them there so that they were able to survive the pandemic with the PPP loans and then with the loan forgiveness programs. And then as we got along and we kept on going, and by the way, that American Rescue Plan, not a single Republican voted for it. Not a single Republican voted to put money back into our hospitals. Not a single Republican voted to put money back into our schools. Not a single Republican voted to support our first responders and our police officers, because there's a lot of money in there that went in for our police forces, our firefighters. All of those first responders were on the front lines all throughout the pandemic first. It's Democrats who delivered that relief to the American people. Exactly. And then, what did we do next? The bipartisan infrastructure deal. A historic investment in the infrastructure of this country. In America right now, our infrastructure is rated a D- by the American Association of Civil Engineers, a D-. We are traveling in Illinois across over 2,400 bridges that are deemed structurally deficient, but we're still using them. Well, we are on the way to fixing those bridges because we passed a bipartisan infrastructure deal. It was Democrats who delivered that. Only one Republican in Illinois voted for that, and that was Adam Kinzinger, and not a single other Republican voted for that bill. And that is fixing roads all across this great state right now, fixing bridges, fixing sewer systems, fixing water, getting lead out of our drinking water supply, renewing our infrastructure that we can truly compete on a global scale. And the Democrats delivered that. And let me just tell you something about what happened at the federal level there. We delivered it at the federal level, but we would not be getting that money in Illinois had the Illinois State Legislature and Governor Pritzker not gotten the Illinois State House in order. This is why it's so important to elect everybody from the top of the ticket all the way down to the municipal level. Because we had that, we fixed our fiscal problems, and we had a capital budget that they passed in Springfield. When the money started flowing for the infrastructure bill, from the infrastructure law, Illinois was #1 in the nation to receive those funds. We got more grant money than any other state when they first started funding. And I think as of 2 weeks ago, we were #6 in the nation, but we're still in the top 10 because we were ready to go. We were ready to start those infrastructure projects because we did what needed to be done in Springfield. Democrats delivered. We delivered, Dick and I at the federal level, and Jan Schakowsky in the House. And we delivered here in Springfield, in Illinois as well, so that we could fix and get that lead out of our water, so our kids don't have to drink poison water, so that our sewers don't flood, so that we can get our roads fixed. And we can be a world-class state everywhere. And then we delivered the CHIPS Act. That came next. The CHIPS Act is bringing manufacturing back to the United States, getting manufacturers who make high-tech manufacturing, whether it is the next generation of microchips that are going to go into everything from electric cars to the space station. They're looking to invest in Illinois. And in fact, we're actively talking with LG Industries right now. Governor Pritzker and I are heading up that effort to try to get them to come back to Illinois, to come and invest in Illinois. And LG has just recently signed a deal with ADM in Decatur, where they're going to take the byproducts of ethanol production and make ethanol a net carbon negative process, because they're going to take that byproduct and they're going to create bioplastics with it. And they've just inked that deal, and there's construction. They're constructing the factory right now in Decatur, Illinois. We are going to be not just able to provide net carbon neutral energy to companies that want to come here, but net carbon negative. And that'll make the future greener for my kids and for all of our kids and grandkids in the future. And it was Democrats who delivered that. And now, where are we? Well, we are looking at moving into the future. We just passed the Inflation Reduction Act.
Wow!
Exactly. And this is something that William has been talking with me a long time. We're taking care of our senior citizens who are on Medicare, and we're capping, as of January, the insulin cost at $35 a month. No longer our seniors have to choose between, do I buy insulin or do I buy food? I talk to folks who are paying $2,000 a month for insulin. Well, now they're not going to pay more than $35 a month for insulin. And we cap total out-of-pocket costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year for the entire year. That's going to help bring down the cost of. And finally, something that Democrats have been talking for a long time, but we finally were able to deliver it on it. We delivered allowing Medicare to negotiate for lower drug prices. And, you know, my little girls, I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. Now, I had what's called, the doctors call it a geriatric pregnancy, which, you know, it's a little insulting. But I did give birth, my 4, almost 5-year-old, I gave birth to her 2 weeks after I turned 50. And we'll more on that on IVF later. But my 2 girls say to me when they get really annoyed with me because I have to leave them and I'm campaigning, I'm doing work. They're like, are you going to go be senator again today, Mommy? I'm like, yes, I got to go to work and be senator again. And my 7-year-old, who is smart as a whip, always says, well, can you at least save the earth today? You get amen, right? When we passed the bipartisan Inflation Reduction Act, we committed the United States to getting to 40%, bringing emissions down to 40% of the levels they were in 2005 by 2035. Think about that. By 2035, we're going to be at 40% of the 2005 levels. That is ahead of the Paris Accords. And so I was able, when I voted for that and came home with my daughter, I was able to say, yeah, baby, I saved the earth a little bit. And then in that, we also have $500 million for biofuels, including biodiesel that will bring aviation fuel, which is the highest consumption of petroleum products, down by switching to biodiesel. And if we can make this net carbon negative by creating bioplastics from the byproducts of biodiesel and ethanol, we're going to get to that net carbon negative, and we're going to bring down our emissions level even faster. And that was in the Inflation Reduction Act, which most people don't even realize. But yeah, Democrats are delivering a greener future for our kids. And then, on top of all that, we did that, and we cut the budget deficit by $500 million in that one bill. So this whole tax and spend Democrats, it's baloney. We actually were able to put money towards what we needed to do for this country and for the future of our nation, and we cut the budget deficit. It was Republicans who added $2 trillion to the budget when they did the tax cuts to the ultra wealthy. It was Democrats are the ones who are bringing down the deficit. So that's what I want to tell people when you go out there. And then I want to touch on one other thing, and this is the Dobbs decision. And I'm in a crowd that probably knows this, but I think it's important because as I travel around Illinois, especially in more conservative parts of Illinois, what I'm hearing from people is like, well, you know, it's about abortion. And I'm never going to have an abortion, so I'm not too worried about that. And what I say to them is the Dobbs decision was not about abortion. The Dobbs decision to overturn Roe v. Wade was about our privacy right to personal autonomy, to bodily autonomy. Because as Justice Clarence Thomas wrote, the word privacy does not show up anywhere in the Constitution, therefore we no longer have the right to privacy. If it's not enumerated in the Constitution, it is not a right that we have. And privacy is nowhere in the Constitution, neither is abortion. And what he said was, therefore we don't have the privacy right to bodily autonomy, therefore Roe v. Wade falls, but he also wrote, we should revisit the decision on birth control, and we should revisit the decision on equal marriage. Back to IVF. The Texas Right for Life organization that wrote the bounty law in Texas that allows anybody to sue a woman who leaves Texas to get access to abortion, the head of that organization just came out about a month ago and said that he wants control of the embryos from IVF. Because as far as he is concerned, those are all individual human beings. And in Georgia, they now have a law in Georgia that defines an embryo as a human being with equal rights to the mother that's carrying it, even before viability. And so you are now seeing cases in Georgia, for example. There's one case where a man sued, I think his wife or his ex-wife, but she was in an accident, a pedestrian, and she was hit by a car or something, and he sued her for negligence to the fetus on behalf of the fetus, because the fetus is a human being, and he got $1 million. Yeah, that was just this past week. Here's back to IVF. When the Dobbs decision was about to come out, the Center for Reproductive Health Care, the Association for Reproductive Health Care, sent a letter to all of their, a bulletin to all of their doctors and said, if you practice IVF and fertility medicine, you may be in trouble in some of these states. Because you see, when I had my 5 eggs fertilized, and 3 of them were found to be non-viable, and my doctor discarded them, that is not potentially manslaughter. That is not potentially manslaughter. And the way the Texas abortion law works, that bounty law, which by the way has been introduced in Missouri, has now been introduced in Missouri. The way that works is, a young woman is going to school at Washington University in St. Louis. She uses an app to track her menstrual cycles. She realizes, ooh, I'm late. She takes a pregnancy test, I am pregnant. She calls because she can't have access to it. Plan B or anything in Missouri, she calls, this is how it would work. It's been introduced but not yet passed in Missouri, but this is how it works in Texas. She calls, she makes an appointment at the Planned Parenthood Clinic in Granite City, Illinois. Makes the appointment, calls for an Uber. Uber comes, picks her up, drives her across the bridge, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. She goes to the clinic, takes the pill, waits the 3 hours, calls on the Uber and comes back. And by the way, 85% of all the procedures at the clinic are a woman taking a pill and waiting 3 to 4 hours. It's not surgical. She comes back. Under the Texas law, the way it works in Texas now, and will work in Missouri if it's passed in Missouri, is her next door neighbor, somebody who knows her or just knows what she did, can sue the Uber drivers, can sue Verizon for her cell phone data that tracks her going across the river and shows her location data for her being there for 3 hours at that address and then coming back. Can sue the period tracking software company for her personal menstrual cycle data. And can sue all of those people. That is where we are right now. That is the case in Texas, and that is the law that has now been introduced in Missouri. This is scary. This is so important. This is why it's so important that if you can do something, please help up and down the ticket. Because you see, they're going to sue for things like our Secretary of State because they want the iPass data on your cars because they want the pictures of your license plate crossing the river to go to a state where you're getting access to services. They want access to again the Verizon data. This is interstate commerce now. This is crazy where we're headed. This is not the country that we all want to live in. This is certainly not one that really talks about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Abortion is a last resort. It is a last resort, but it's a decision best made by a woman and her doctor, and politicians don't belong in those doctors' offices. And I'm quoting Raphael Warnock on that. Raphael Warnock is the one who said that. He says doctors' offices are small enough without politicians showing up in there as well with a woman and her doctor. And listen, he's a brilliant man. So thank you for letting me be here with you today. Thank you for the work that you're doing. But if you can, Eric Sorensen really needs your help out there from Rockford West. He's got a real fight because the person that's running against him has run several times, so she has a war chest of over like $1.3 million. He just started this cycle, so he has $300,000. But we're going to win because we're going to knock on doors and we're going to use the grassroots and the people to people. That's how we're going to win. But he is up against tremendous odds when it comes to the amount of money that's being spent there. Nikki Budzinski is the hardest worker I know, and she's working hard every single day, and I've watched her on the campaign trail now, and she needs help as well. And if you can do anything in Wisconsin with phone calls, if you have friends and relatives in Milwaukee, turn out, turn out, turn out, turn out. We can win Wisconsin, but not without turnout between the border with Illinois, all of those communities, Racine, all of those communities going all the way up to Milwaukee. That's where we need turnout to happen in order for Mandela Barnes to win. And I need your help with that. I'm going to be making calls. Everybody's going to be making calls. But please, we're down to 19 days, something like that. 17. See, I'm losing track. We're going to get there. But I just want to say that, I wore the uniform to protect and defend the Constitution. I wore the uniform and I went to war to defend this nation and defend our democracy. But I'm here to tell you that's not the only way to defend democracy. What each and every one of you are doing today, this evening, on a beautiful 76-degree evening, you should be out there doing stuff, not in a room talking about elections and doing all, and being told to spend more money and spend more of your free time. But you are, because you're defending democracy. And I want to thank you for that, because most Americans are not doing what you're doing right now. They're not sitting in a room talking about how do I best make sure that everybody gets a chance to vote, who wants to vote and who should vote. You're not talking about standing up and defending the rights and the well-being of neighbors and people who will never know your name, that you're out there knocking on doors. There are Americans all across this great land who worry about this nation but are not doing what you're doing. So it is my honor to be able to stand with you arm in arm and defend the democracy, because small d democracy is precious, it is vulnerable, and it must be guarded every single day. And you're in this fight. So thank you, and God bless you all. Thanks.